Okay, what's happening, beautiful people? We're back again with the live. They didn't want to see us win on the first one. We had the sound cut out, a bunch of bullshit, so we had to give it another startup. Shout out to you guys for tuning back in again. Before we jump into the stories today, we have a couple of main stories today. As you can see, obviously, we'll talk about Bill Gates. We'll talk about all the different stuff that's coming down the pipe with the new Epstein files. But just real quick, I wanted to give a shout out to everybody out there who's been showing love to me on social media. You know, I think I maybe had a slanted idea of how people were feeling in this scenario. I felt like I was getting a lot of backlash on my recent coverage. A lot of people maybe not trying to hear some of this stuff, and posted a couple of comments. And it was very refreshing to see that most of the people in my base, most of the people who followed me and who've actually watched me and who are excited for my evolution are still behind me, and they encourage these new stories. They encourage the stuff about Epstein. They encourage all the content that's been coming down the pipe. So that's been really cool to see. So shout out to all of you guys who are still showing love. Shout out to Lois. Shout out to Kev in the chat. These are the people I'm talking about, man. So let's hop into tonight's stories. We won't have an overly long stream this evening, and if I sound like I'm talking in a bit of a hushed tone, I'm actually live from a pod hostel at the moment, so I'm not actually sharing a room with anybody. And I don't know if you guys can get a really good sense of like the space that I'm in, but this room is incredibly small. Like, this is, when you talk about those rooms like in New York City, when you rent a room and it's like one of those micro apartments, this is it. And I'm gonna make a video about it to show you guys like what this place actually looks like. But it's a trip. It's like you're on a huge, it's like a cruise ship the size of this building. I actually got lost in this building. Nonetheless, it's a bit of a different environment, so I'm gonna try not to wake the whole house up at like 9:30 at night. So let's hop into this first video about Bill Gates. As you guys can see from the title, the plot thickens. The story continues when it comes to the lore behind Jeffrey Epstein. And every single day, it seems like the people who talked about this, the people who were in the know, the people who were whistleblowers, continue to be vindicated in this story. Now, just a couple of weeks ago, Bill Gates did a couple of public interviews that we're going to have to run back. I think we got to watch those clips on tonight's stream to really send the message home. But he did multiple interviews denying all of the allegations that came with the Jeffrey Epstein files being released. He denied the fact that he was going to be administering his wife STD medication by actually drugging her with this medication and giving it to her unbeknownst to her, which, you know, from what I understand, at least from everyday understanding of the law, is definitely not legal. You know, from what I understand, if somebody else was actually caught conspiring to drug their wife with any medication, they probably would be behind bars right now and in handcuffs. But that's a whole other story. We'll get to that in a moment. So he denied that. He denied the medication. He denied seeing any women. And he denied having any contact with Epstein outside of a couple casual dinners because, hey, a guy like Bill Gates, he doesn't have enough resources. He needs to outsource to a guy like Epstein. This was just a couple of weeks ago that all of these announcements came to light. And now it's come to light that everything that Bill Gates told us was complete and utter bullshit. Complete and utter fabrication, and just yet another cover-up of everything happening in the Epstein files. So let's take a look at the exact quotes that Bill Gates is saying now. We're going to look at everything that he's actually admitted today, and then we're going to juxtapose. We're going to go take a look at all of the lies and compare that. Very excited to be rolling these videos tonight. Make sure to smash that like and that sub if you guys are watching. And let's jump into the very first video. Bill Gates apologizing to his Microsoft team for his involvement with Jeffrey Epstein.
About the photos of.
And I want to connect my headphones because usually when you're wearing Bluetooth headphones, guys, they work better when they're on. That's just usually my rule of thumb. Okay, let's play the video.
Him in the Epstein files. Here's Pierre Thomas.
Tonight, Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates revealing more damaging information about his personal life and admitting to a series of stunning lapses in judgment in building a relationship with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Today, the fallout growing as Gates was pressed by employees at a Gates Foundation town hall. According to the Wall Street Journal, which revealed audio of the meeting, Gates told employees it was a huge mistake to spend time with Epstein. He acknowledged that his relationship with Epstein began after Epstein was convicted of soliciting a minor. And he claimed that he, one of the wealthiest men in the world, did not properly research Epstein's background that would have revealed his sordid past. Knowing what I know now makes it, 100 times worse. Gates acknowledged his association probably helped Epstein rehabilitate his image. And he revealed other damning specifics, saying the men flew together on a private jet and that they hung out in Germany, France, New York, and Washington. But Gates was adamant that he never witnessed any criminal activity. But Gates did acknowledge he had affairs with 2 Russian women. And Gates also addressed these photos, saying there were pictures Epstein asked him to take with his assistants. His ex-wife recently saying Gates needs to answer questions.
Insane. We're going to play the clip of the ex-wife as well. But look, Bill Gates pretty much opening up. Now, first thing I have to say really is shout out to the employees who asked him these questions. I don't know what the circumstances were at this actual town hall that led up to these questions being asked, but nonetheless, this is a lot of information that we got, and I'm surprised that it came from Gates' own employees. And it's actually an encouraging thing to see because it breaks away from the trend of all of these employees, all of these people being complicit. Now, I think saying all of these employees is a bit, quite a stretch. When you look at a company like a Microsoft, they got tens of thousands of employees. So most of them probably don't even know what's actually going on. But if you're at the level that you're at a town hall, you're actually involved in this event, and you're able to ask questions to the founder, that would give me the impression that these people are pretty high up when it comes to the operation. Pretty high up, pretty important people who likely could be complicit and stand to gain a lot from it. It breaks away from the trend of everybody falling in line. So it's good for me, encouraging for me rather, to see the fact that this is actually coming from Gates' employees. So what were the actual direct quotes from Bill Gates? Well, we have them right here. We're going to go ahead and read them right now. So Gates has been sticking with his typical line, which is the line that he loves to use, which is, "It was a mistake for me to see Epstein." This is like Bill Gates' stock line when it comes to Epstein, and it's really been his go-to at every single time. So we can expect to hear this. This is like the greatest hits. I feel like all of these guys accused of being around Epstein, they have like the greatest hits of excuses. So, we only met him once when he was taking a photo at a party. I didn't do anything wrong with him. I didn't see anything happening at the island. These are like the greatest hits of excuses when it comes to these guys who were with Epstein. So we can expect to hear that. So he hit us with the greatest hits. I did nothing illicit. I saw nothing illicit. That's a direct quote from Bill Gates at this new town hall that just came out. The next quote, and this is a direct quote from Bill Gates. He says, quote, "I did have affairs, one with a Russian bridge player who met me at bridge events, and one with a Russian nuclear physicist who I met through business activities." So that's a bombshell there. And again, this blows everything out of the water that Bill Gates was just telling us. He was just telling us that nothing happened. He was just telling us he didn't meet any women. He was just telling us also that he didn't attend any events with Jeffrey Epstein outside of very formal dinners, typically with other people involved. In one sentence, in one foul swoop, he's completely undone and taken any value away from everything that he's told us leading up to this scenario. So he did, in fact, meet women. Direct quote from Bill Gates. And then we get back to the greatest hits. He says, "It was a huge mistake to spend time with Epstein. I apologize to the other people who were drawn into this because of the mistakes that I made." So hollow, so ridiculous, so unconvincing from Bill Gates. And it's just a nightmare. So let's go ahead and take a look at a couple things. Let's take a look at Bill Gates' actual interview where he was talking about this in the first place. Now, Bill Gates was adamant that nothing, absolutely nothing had occurred in terms of meeting women, in terms of all of this misconduct with Epstein. He was completely adamant that this was not the case. Let's go ahead and roll this first clip, and then we'll also look at the clip of Bill's ex-wife speaking on this as well, because both of these interviews are so telling and so contradictory.
Good Lord. Well, the other person, another very prominent person caught up in all this is Bill Gates, of course, claims that he picked up a sexually transmitted disease from a Russian woman. He's denied that publicly. But listen to Melinda.
Okay, so let's go to his comment first. And let's look at this sniveling little liar. Patrick in the chat says, when is America going to prosecute these scumbags? Let's get to that in a second. We're going to get to that in a second, but I want to make sure we have all the facts here first. Just to show the lies in real time. Because like I mentioned on yesterday's stream or the day before, we have to track the lies in real time. The one thing that's happening with these Epstein files is a lot of people are distracted by a lot of different aspects of it. There's a lot of information being thrown out all at once. I think the most important part that we need to look at is the lies when they're actually captured on tape. Not the suspicion of lies, not the suspicion of wrongdoing, the actual evidence of wrongdoing and cover-ups. That's what we have to look at least from my perspective. So let's go ahead and roll this first one.
It's factually true that I was only at dinners. You know, I never went to the island. I never met
It's factually true. It's factually true, guys.
It's factually true that I was only at dinners. You know, I never went to the island. I never met any women. And so, you know, the more that comes out, the more clear it'll be that although the time was a mistake, it had nothing to do with that kind of behavior.
There we go.
Nothing to do with that kind of behavior, guys. So nothing to worry about. Bill Gates, his hands were clean. Look, he may have spent time at the Epstein Island. He may have met women. He may have done all these things, but, you know, he certainly had no knowledge of any wrongdoing. That would be absurd to think that. It's out of the question to think that a guy like him would know anything, right? Well, not exactly. We go back to the quote from Bill Gates, which just came out today. I have to read it one more time, guys, to juxtapose it compared to what we just saw. The direct quote again reads as follows. I did have affairs, one with a Russian bridge player who met me at bridge events, and one with a Russian nuclear physicist who I met through business activities. Now, the other shocking part about this whole story is the fact that Bill Gates reportedly did catch an STD through one of his affairs with one of these women. Now, I don't know if we're still supposed to believe that that part is fake, but I'm going to go ahead and say that part was real. If the extracurricular activities were real, if the affairs were real, if the women were real, I would imagine that the STD story is probably also real. And this also coincided, by the way, with the divorce of Bill and Melinda Gates. The STD story matches the actual timeline in which these two got a divorce. And it would stand to reason that she would want a divorce due to this. Now, the official story goes that Bill Gates contracted an STD from his extramarital affairs that were orchestrated by Epstein. And through one of these affairs, he actually caught an STD. Now, apparently the story goes that Gates wasn't really aware of this, and maybe he had had contact with Melinda Gates since the affair. That detail exactly is unclear. But whatever had happened, Gates felt it was necessary to try and actually administer Melinda Gates with STD preventative medication without her knowledge, without her knowing. Slip it into a drink, put it in some food. Remember, we're talking about a billionaire, one of the most influential people on the planet. This was his scheme, his plan against his own wife. Instead of sitting down and talking to her, instead of maybe telling her, look, I really messed up, we have something to worry about here, this powerful billionaire conspired to actually administer his own wife with a medication against her will. Now, Melinda Gates did do an interview where she responded to this, and by the way, I'm surprised they're still doing all these interviews. I mean, they're doing a lot of interviews. If I was going through this, I probably wouldn't be speaking at all. Let's go ahead and watch the clip of Melinda Gates reacting to all of this and Again, we did play it on the stream before, but I think it's really important that we take a look at this again and really, really break it down. I'm going to read you guys' chat messages as well. Let's play this clip first.
I have to acknowledge the elephant in the room at this moment. Your ex-husband, Bill, is named in the newest tranche of Epstein files. And there are a new alleged details about his past behavior. And I want to give you the opportunity to respond in whatever way you want to.
Well, let me say this.
Shout out
I
Lois.
think we're having a reckoning as a society, right? No girl should ever be put in the situation that they were put in by Epstein and whatever was going on with all of the various people around him.
Now notice she says girl, by the way. I don't mean to cut off the clip, but the one thing that really stands out to me in her language here, we're told that Bill Gates was only involved with adult Russian women. She's not talking about women, and the way she's talking doesn't seem like she's talking about adult consenting women. She uses the word girl when she speaks here. So this to me is quite telling.
Should ever be put in the situation.
This is his ex-wife, guys, Melinda Gates.
That they were put in by Epstein and whatever was going on with all of the various people around him. No girl. I mean, it's beyond heartbreaking, right? I remember being those ages, those girls were. I remember my daughters being those ages, right? So for me, it's personally hard whenever those details come up, right? Because brings back memories of some very, very painful times in my marriage, but I have moved on from that. I purposely pushed it away and I moved on. I'm in a really unexpected, beautiful place in my life. So whatever questions remain there of what I can't even begin to know all of it, those questions are for those people and for even my ex-husband. They need to answer to those things, not me.
Yeah, I'm sure the billions help. I mean, definitely, that's the most believable thing in this interview, by the way, is that she's in a good place in life. When you become like the richest woman on the planet by doing nothing, just because you were divorced by some guy, I would imagine, yeah, you probably do have a pretty good outlook on life. You probably feel quite well on a day-to-day basis. That part to me is not hard to believe. But what confuses me is the language that she's using. Again, this is not a woman who sounds like she's talking about an affair. You know, an affair is heartbreaking, I would imagine. It's a lot of things, but it doesn't have this dark undertone in which she's speaking with. An affair is a very different category of wrongdoing than these type of thing that she's talking about. People are asking when this interview was. This interview was 3 weeks ago. It was February 3rd that this interview came out on NPR. And this is not AI, guys. This is not AI. This is a real interview with Melinda Gates. Okay, so she says Bill Gates needs to answer for this. Just the lack of accountability is crazy. So my question for you guys, we'll play the rest of the clip. Do you guys believe that she's actually an innocent bystander? Because she tries to play it off like, oh, those crazy guys had their thing going over there. Do you guys think that she had any sense of what was happening? Or do you feel like she was an innocent bystander? Let me know in the chat.
And I moved on. I'm in a really unexpected, beautiful place in my life. So whatever questions remain there of what I can't even begin to know all of it, those questions are for those people and for even my ex-husband. They need to answer to those things, not me.
Well,
and I am so happy to be away from all the muck that was there.
I have to put more words to the muck for context for our listeners. The emails in the files suggest that Bill Gates had additional affairs and that he tried to get medication to treat a sexually transmitted infection and that he was going to give you the medicine without you knowing.
This journalist is crazy for that, by the way. Like, as a reporter myself, I will tell you guys, it's quite hard to ask some of these tough questions to people face-to-face during an interview. It's what you have to do as a reporter and a journalist, but sometimes it can be quite uncomfortable. Quite surprised to see this reporting coming from NPR. You got to give credit where it's due. This is good. This is good journalism.
And that he was going to give you the medicine without you knowing. His representative has said all of this is false. It is not on you to have to respond to the details of that alleged behavior, but I wonder what your dominant emotion is when you read these news articles with these details.
Sad. Just unbelievable sadness. Unbelievable sadness, right? And again, I'm able to take my own sadness and look at those young girls and say, my God, how did that happen to those girls, right? And so for me, it's just sadness for, I left my marriage. I had to leave my marriage. I wanted to leave my marriage. I had to leave I felt I needed to eventually leave the foundation. So it's just sad. That's the truth, right? And it's kind of like, at least for me, I've been able to move on in life. And I hope there's some justice for those now women, right? We see them standing up.
This is so damning, though. So, two things. Notice she doesn't deny anything that was asked by this interviewer. Look, this is my first observation. If I'm sitting there and somebody says, yeah, we heard that your partner was going to administer you with STD preventative medication without you knowing. If that wasn't true, I would be like, excuse me, pause for a second. That's a crazy thing to say. That is something that if there was an ounce of dishonesty about that statement, that would definitely be called out by the person, okay? She does not deny any of it. She literally doesn't deny a thing that was said in this interview. The next thing is that I think upon watching this back again, we are going to actually see a lot worse things come out about Bill Gates in these files. Because again, she is not referencing women. She literally says those now women. So what is she trying to tell us about Bill Gates?
Sadness for, I left my marriage. I had to leave my marriage. I wanted to leave my marriage. I had to leave I felt I needed to eventually leave the foundation. So
this
it's
part
just
here,
sad.
this part coming up here.
That's the truth, right? And it's kind of like, at least for me, I've been able to move on in life. And I hope there's some justice for those now women, right? We see them standing up in front of microphones in D.C.
Crazy. Such a crazy statement to make. So look, guys, this is all the information on the table here. So my thing is this, like I kind of started saying just a moment ago, I think that the problems with Bill Gates coming out are going to be much worse and much more severe than this. By the sounds of it, by the sounds of his wife and the people around him. And also the fact that people who were closer and closer to him are now starting to blow the whistle even more. Those two factors combined, to me, are a serious red flag. I would imagine that within the coming weeks, we're going to see some crazy stuff popping off about Bill Gates, stuff that we probably could have never imagined. The next thing that I'm wondering is where exactly the accountability is going to be. The one statement that was made is that there's so many egregious things happening in these files that things that are really serious are being looked at like they're not even that big of a deal and brushed off. And some people have made the point that even conspiring to actually administer medication to somebody against their will, that alone is enough to be behind bars for a pretty substantial amount of time. Like I said in the beginning of this stream, if this was an average everyday person who would just worked at a truck stop and they were planning on drugging their wife with any medication, slipping it in their food and their drink, that sounds to me like a YouTube crime documentary video, like Escape With Us or whatever. Like you watch some of these EWU videos, these crime videos on YouTube. This is the type of thing that they would have in these videos. Even just an action like that is probably worth jail time. So now we have basically confirmed evidence of actions like this. We have confirmed evidence about all of the wrongdoings with Epstein. everything he said about Epstein is a lie. My question is, how much evidence do we actually need before somebody is arrested for something? You know, the UK is currently leading the way, which I'm very happy to see, and I'm surprised to see. They're locking up people, not quite yet, but they're bringing people in for questioning. They're doing investigations, and they're holding powerful people to account. That's great to see in the UK. But I think in order to be taken seriously in this situation, we're going to have to see the same actions from the United States. And that's the one big thing in the United States that is a big problem. They are scared to hold to account the important people in their country because they don't want to lose those people as assets. Bill Gates is a very valuable guy. I understand that. But at a certain point in time, it doesn't matter if you're Bill Gates or the president or whoever. There's got to be accountability when people are doing stuff like this. Now, here's the other side of the coin that I do want to throw in there. And then I'm going to read you guys' chats. I appreciate... thank you for the super chat, brother. I appreciate that very much. You can send me... I've been seeing your messages in the chat. You can send me whatever you want. Send me all the information that you have. So here's the other point that I want to look at here. If it does come to light, and this doesn't just go for Bill Gates, this goes for everybody. This goes for all of the people who were involved in Epstein's case. Because right now, what is being confirmed is that Bill Gates had extramarital affairs with 2 adult Russian women. Okay, fair enough. If it does come to light that that's all that he did, or all that any of these people did with Jeffrey Epstein, and they actually were not involved in any of these crimes that he was doing, I think maybe we need a bit of leniency here. Because me personally, I'm not the morality police. I care about people being victimized. I care about people being trafficked. I care about people who are being put in a position to be a victim. That being said, an extramarital affair between 2 adults to me is not always that situation. And there's layers to it. So, you know, if it comes out that those women were trafficked, that those women were victimized in some way, and that influenced them to be with Bill Gates, okay, that's a problem. But if Bill Gates decided to sleep with 2 Russian women and they were on board and it was consensual, I actually don't really mind that. I don't care, because that's none of my business. The other thing that we have to look at is that Bill and Melinda Gates tries to play this victim role in the sense that she didn't know that her husband was unfaithful. But that couldn't be further from the truth either. Let's pull up this contract here that, if anybody hasn't seen this, it's quite shocking. Bill Gates and Melinda Gates, now this kind of throws a wrench in her theory that, oh, her husband is some innocent guy or some faithful guy. Bill and Melinda Gates supposedly had a special clause in their marriage contract that explicitly gave Bill Gates the rights and permission to go and visit his ex for holiday for 1 weekend out of the year without it being considered an affair. This is not a conspiracy. This is not hearsay. This is actually documented from their marriage. If we read here from The Independent, and a lot of people don't know this, that's why we got to do the reporting. It says Bill and Melinda Gates reportedly had an agreement that allowed him to see his ex-girlfriend for an annual weekend getaway. Mr. Gates had dated Ann Winbald, an American businesswoman in the 1980s, and entered into an agreement with his wife that allowed him to spend a long weekend with her. It was discussed that the relationship and the extent of his involvement with her after his marriage, they go on and on. So basically, my point in reading this is that any sort of act from Melinda Gates or any of these wives of these rich billionaires that, well, I thought it was only me, it's complete and utter bullshit. Again, if it's consenting adults, I don't care. And frankly, it's to be expected when you deal with these guys, because look at the guys that we're dealing with. You look at a guy like a Bill Gates. You look at a guy like a Warren Buffett. You look at any of these people. These guys weren't necessarily doing super well with women before they made their money. We're looking at guys who are nerds, We're looking at guys who were not popular in school. They were not popular at any point in their lives with women or with anybody else. And we're also looking at guys who spent their entire lives slaving away to make a company. When you are locked in and working to the level of a guy who's building a company like Microsoft, there's no weekends, there's no fun times, there's no holidays, there's no breaks, there's nothing. A guy like Bill Gates was an unpopular nerd who sat in a room for 30 years building a company, never going out to do anything fun at all. They had no access to women on the come up. So what happens with these dudes who are nerds? They had no play. They finally make it big and they get rich. They go a little crazy. That's what these guys do. And again, I don't include the illegal stuff in that. I think that's criminal. That's not considered going a little crazy. That's depraved sickness. But when I'm talking about consensual relationships with adults, taking drugs, acting loopy, that's why they do this stuff, because they never had an outlet for any bad behavior. They were in their 20s and their 30s trying to build companies. My point in saying all of this is that that's just the way of the game, and I don't care about that. So if it does come out that Bill Gates only had consensual adult relationships and he actually didn't have any knowledge or any involvement in Epstein's immoral crimes, I don't really care about that. And I think we should let him off the hook to an extent. That being said, though, that's a pretty rosy-eyed view of what's happening here. And when you actually listen to the language of a woman like Melinda Gates, the way she's speaking about it, the way she seems so triggered and upset just by talking about it, that tells me that there's a lot more going on in this situation. But let me know what you guys think down below in the chat. I'm seeing, so Melinda knew he was a cheater, case closed. Exactly. Melinda knew he was a cheater. It was in the marriage clause that he was a cheater. The women were adults. That's not what I heard. Well, that's how it's being reported. It's not being reported as him doing anything with underage people. The current report is that they were 2 Russian women. We can try to find more information on the identities of these women. Okay, what do you want me to type? I'm going to type this in from our guy in the chat, but I'm going to hide it because I feel like it could be... I don't know what it's going to be. I don't want to get set up. I don't just type in random words on stream and then let it pop up. So let me type this in. What do you want to see? Mitochondria? Okay. Oh, yeah, okay. I've seen this before. But why do you want me to type this in? Is this what Bill Gates had? So it says, mitochondria are double-membraned rod-shaped organelles found in most eukaryotic cells. What is... Okay, so what? I don't get it. Shout out to the chat, man. Shout out Canada. I'm Canadian myself. Broadcasting from Bangkok, Thailand at the moment. So yeah, guys, I mean, at the end of the day, it's just unbelievable. You know, it's unbelievable when you watch these interviews. It's unbelievable when you listen to what is said by these people. It's mind-blowing. What about the surgical operations on children? From Bill Gates, I have to take a look at that. I haven't looked into that quite yet, so I couldn't comment on that, James. 11 says, bro, when there was no info, they said there was no connection. When the connections come out, they'll say, oh, yeah, but I didn't go to the island. Yeah, I completely agree with that, Manny. And that's why I'm not buying it. I did just want to throw it out there that, like, I don't think we should be playing morality police if they were doing stuff with consenting adults. That's when I don't really give a shit, because that's pretty much every celebrity, every rich guy, not even celebrities. You know, every club owner that I know cheats on their wives with the waitresses. Every restaurant owner, every lawyer, every newscaster. Unfortunately, when people are in a position of power, that's kind of just the way it is. So that's all my point is. I don't want to be playing morality police for legal activities. The only time I'm going to be up in arms and shit as if people are actually being victimized, because that's not my style. It's not my style. Montreal in the building. What's good, Montreal? Wales in the building. Yes, sir. How's Bangkok? Is the busy season over? It's actually quite busy. It's quite busy here still. It's hot as hell, dude. I've been enjoying my indoor streams. It's hotter than a motherfucker out here right now. And the sun's not even out, but it's just hot. Okay, so let's try to find a little bit more information about Bill Gates. We'll look at some other stuff. We'll look at, there's a new Joe Rogan clip where he was reacting to some of the Epstein situation. Bali is flooding, a nearby place to me, so we'll go take a look at some of the footage from Bali as well. So let's try to find a little bit of information about the Russian individuals, because that's going to help me really wrap my mind around what my thoughts are on this situation. As of now, I don't think there's any confirmation about the identities of these women. I'm going to try to find it here. It says women, though. It doesn't say anything illegal. We're probably going to have to just wait to find that out, guys, honestly. Let me see what you guys are saying real quick before we jump into the next one. Yeah, they should all be arrested. Yeah, whoever's flying the planes, whoever's doing all that should be arrested. Okay, let's jump into another one. So Joe Rogan was apparently stunned by some new information that came out in the Epstein files. Let's take a look at a clip here from Joe. There's a couple new Rogan clips.
So he's having a conversation with a woman who says that she heard that there's a place. Here it is. A friend, Eliza, told me about a project she's doing researching a really bad guy that gets children for sex sent to his island. She almost fainted when I told her that person is me.
Whoa.
Wow. Like,
that's an email from Epstein, apparently. Wow.
Yeah. What? Okay, so that's just there.
What?
There's no way to interpret that any other way. That person is me.
That person is me. I'm
children for sex sent to his island. That person is me.
Whoa.
Holy shit. That one is fucking crazy. That's 2018.
That's wild, man. Isn't there a website where you can go into Epstein's email and they have it like a Gmail? Let me see if I can. Oh, yeah. Oh, my God, guys. So on this website, whoa, this is weird. So this looks like a Gmail server, and you could actually read all of the Epstein emails? No way. This is so weird. So who should I look? If I look up, let me see, Bill Gates. Whoever built this website's a genius. I'm even logged into his Gmail account. Hi, Jeffrey. Damn. Okay, let's see. So if I look up Bill Gates, there's all types of emails from Bill Gates. I think I'm going to start combing through these guys, and we're just going to find, like, we're going to find some exclusives in these files that nobody's ever found before. It might take me more time to do it. I might have to do it off stream and then come back with my findings, because it might take me hours. But I feel like we can find some crazy shit in these streams, in these files. But all kinds of meetings that are not dinner. Bill Gates responding. Crazy. There was another Rogan clip that we had. Let's take a look at Rogan. Interesting to see Rogan talking about Epstein, by the way, because no mention of like the 19 people who've recently featured on the Joe Rogan podcast who were implicated in being in the files or on the island. I really laugh at the fact that Rogan is still trying to play this everyman act. And I don't have any dislike towards Rogan, but the fact that he's sitting there like, hey man, I don't know, somebody's gonna investigate and figure out what's going on. Maybe you could ask some of your buddies who've been on your podcast, who've also been on the island. There's a lot of them. You guys have a lot of mutual friends. You actually might get more information talking to your buddies than the FBI is gonna get. But that's a whole other story. Let's hop into this clip here. Rogan talking about Epstein's biggest co-conspirator. It's an interesting one.
What is his last name? Les Wexner, right? Who's the CEO of Victoria's Secrets. Is he the CEO or the owner?
Former CEO. But
both. Former owner, CEO of Victoria's Secrets. He's being named as a co-conspirator now. Yes. Yeah, so he's being named along with Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein. Because he runs this modeling, Victoria's Secrets, hot girls, the whole deal.
So Les Wexner, by the way, I know we covered it on some of the past streams, but he was the guy who owned Victoria's Secret, former CEO, but also he was the guy who was giving Epstein all of the houses and the private jets and all of these compounds in which he was operating out of. So if you see all these houses, you see all these estates that Epstein was in, people wonder, how did he get those houses? One of the main people who was actually funding Epstein, and maybe not directly funding him, I don't want to use the word funding, but enabling him and basically giving him the keys to the castle, was Les Wexner. So let's just wanted to add that for clarity about who is being discussed in this video.
Somehow or another, he's involved in this, and they had redacted his name up until now, right?
Pretty sure. Yeah. Well, two things. I don't think anybody. His existence as a co-conspirator isn't new information.
But it's confirmed.
Chip, we'll check it out, but I'm not following what you're saying, man. You're going to have to explain how this ties into the files. I'm personally lost on what you're trying to communicate with me.
Right.
I don't understand what you're saying.
People, I think, are up in arms is that it wasn't supposed to be blocked out from the files.
Exactly.
He's not a victim.
Right. He's not a victim, so why was his name redacted?
Right.
And so they got it unredacted, and now he's being named.
I think he's the funder of most of it, is what it seems.
What?
Right.
Well,
so people knew that there was something going on, but he had gifted Jeffrey Epstein this insane house in Manhattan. So this is like a $60 million house in Manhattan. You know the house where you go into it and you see Bill Clinton in a dress?
Yeah.
You know that picture that we have out in the lobby?
Yeah.
That's from the foyer of his house.
Right.
Did you guys ever see the Bill Clinton dress? It's so crazy how many people haven't seen a lot of this stuff, because I showed this on the stream once and the chat lost their minds. So this is a real painting that Jeffrey Epstein had hanging in his New York estate of Bill Clinton. An actual painting that Jeffrey Epstein had. I mean, I feel like this is why it cracked me up, by the way, when people would say like, oh, it's a conspiracy theory. Just look at something like this. If this is not ringing alarm bells in your head, I don't understand. You think, if anybody thinks this is normal, they have to be crazy. There was also the George Bush painting that he had in his house. This one gives me the creeps. It puts like a shiver down my spine. This one here, I don't know why it's not showing in good quality. I'm going to try to find a high quality picture. This one here. George Bush knocking down two towers with a paper plane. These are real pieces of artwork, guys, that were hanging in Jeffrey Epstein's house. And like Salvador says, it does look kind of occultist. And I mean, Jeffrey Epstein had all types of creepy art in his house. I mean, let's just look at Jeffrey Epstein house art. Actually, I'm not going to go full screen because there's some stuff that we don't really want to see. I learned this the hard way trying to look up Jeffrey Epstein. You see all types of scary things. And I say scary because, as an adult man, there's very few things that can scare me, but thinking about what goes on in houses like that, definitely scare me. I can't even really show some of these photos. Anyway, let's go back to Rogan and we'll finish him talking about Les Wexner.
That Jeffrey Epstein was gifted by Les Wexner. By the way, Whitney Webb posted on her Twitter about Les Wexner being a sex trafficker, a child sex trafficker, in 2020.
Crazy.
See if you can find that.
There were so many whistleblowers, guys. That's the crazy part about it. There was so many people trying to say this was happening.
Like that crazy chick is right about everything.
The lady was kidnapped, or she was claimed she was kidnapped. It was in his house in New Albany, or Columbus. Like she claimed she was being held there for, I don't know, 2 weeks or something, like doing art. She called her dad to try to get out of there or something like that.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, that's not like his involvement isn't like brand new information.
This was in Columbus, Ohio?
Yeah, they showed some of Podesta's art, but I don't really want to show it, man. It's disturbing. Some of this stuff I don't really want to perpetuate.
Well, New Albany is where that's where his house is. The biggest house in Ohio, I think. It's a suburb of Columbus. It'd be like Westlake to
Right.
People think he's still there. That's where Epstein's living, but that's not accurate.
Well, the people that think he's alive, I think they think he's in Israel, don't they?
Definitely, I think they're AI.
Do you guys think Epstein's alive? I mean, I've had a pretty good amount of 50-50 in my chat. I've had a good amount of people say he's alive, a good amount of people say he didn't kill himself, but he is dead. Does anybody in my chat right now think he's alive, yes or no?
Photos, they might not be.
Oh, I saw that.
But
yeah.
That people think he's been seen or spotted around town.
Wouldn't you think he'd get some surgery?
You would think that he would have to.
Yeah.
Like, he's probably one of the most recognizable faces in the world at this point.
Yeah.
Like, after so much airtime.
You'd have to get some surgery if you wanted to still. I mean, how would you keep that? This is the tweet. Your reminder that Leslie Wexner financed the mass rape and trafficking of thousands of American children for over a decade, and right now he is sitting in a 26K square foot mansion in New Albany, Ohio, thinking that he is above the law. She tweeted this in April 28 of 2020.
That's a crazy tweet. I don't even know Whitney Webb, but shout out to her. And by the way, shout out to all the people who were talking about this before it was cool. You know, this is actually the thing that happened with me. You know, I've been doing streams about this for the past couple of months. And a lot of people were uncomfortable with it. A lot of people that watched me for a long time now didn't really want to watch. They weren't comfortable with me dipping my toe into this. They were like, let's sit back and wait. I jumped into this stuff before it was cool, and now everybody suddenly wants to talk about it. But shout out to the people who jumped in before it was established, and I don't even want to say cool, before it was accepted.
How crazy is that?
Holy shit.
She's like the most prolific of all the conspiracy theorists, the most well-read, the one with the most recall, the one that's the most quoted. I don't know how she's so good at it. We're trying to get her on. I don't know how she's so good and what her background is, how she finds all this information, but she's always way ahead of all this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, 2020.
That's crazy.
That's fucking way ahead of everybody.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Bro. But these
4chan was on it in like 2012 though, bro. You look at the internet kids. Yeah, Alex Jones. See, that's the thing. In the chat, people were on this way before 2020. You got to give credit where it's due. That's the one thing, though, that I did realize after some of these conspiracies and stuff came to light, was that when they actually came to light, the people who were whistleblowing don't really get the credit that they thought they would get. You know, I remember before weed was legalized in my home country of Canada, I was like a stoner kid, a pothead kid, whatever, but not necessarily without doing my research. I tried to figure out what the medical benefits were, and now I think a lot of the medical benefits I question about cannabis. But I remember telling all the people who were against it that, well, it can do this, it can cure Tourette's, and it can calm people's nervous systems who have this disease, and it can actually be helpful for cancer. I remember I was the guy in my family who was saying that for years. And then weed became legal, and then all the people in my family who hated weed either started smoking weed or they started accepting weed as a medical treatment for things. And I kind of remember saying, like, yeah, you guys remember a couple years ago before it was legal when I was saying all of this stuff and I was, correct about absolutely every single aspect of it? And the reaction was always like, oh, I thought you mentioned something about it. When you're right and the other person's wrong, that person suddenly miraculously forgets about the hours spent debating said issue. They forget about the countless dinners and the countless sit downs and the countless, talks in the car where you were right and they were wrong. That's exactly what happens here with Epstein. A guy like Alex Jones. You guys remember when I was talking about this 30 years ago? People, oh, well, you might have mentioned something. He might have brought it up.
To someone named Bill, whose name is redacted. Like, there's one of them where he's talking about pandemic planning.
What?
Where Jeffrey Epstein is talking about pandemic planning to someone named Bill.
Bro, see, this is where it gets deep, though. Can you imagine if Bill Gates made the pandemic with Epstein? Listen, I'm going to be wearing a tinfoil hat by the end of this one. We're going full conspiracy.
Oh, billionaire guys, their names were redacted. Like, there's one of them where he's talking about pandemic planning.
What?
Where Jeffrey Epstein is talking about pandemic planning to someone named Bill, whose name is redacted. It's like, why are you redacting the guy's name that you're talking about planning for a pandemic, like what to do in response to a pandemic?
And who could that have been, by the way, with the name Bill? Who with the name Bill has knowledge about vaccines or perceived? First of all, I don't even think he has knowledge about vaccines. I don't know when this guy started identifying as a doctor. I think the whole I identify as this and that actually started from Bill Gates, because Bill Gates woke up one day and decided he was a doctor. I don't know when it happened. I don't know where he studied. I don't know where the qualifications came from. But one day he woke up and said, I, Bill Gates, identify as a doctor. I identify as somebody with knowledge of medical vaccinations and different things like that, which I don't know where this knowledge supposedly comes from. Nonetheless, who could it be who is in that field with the name Bill? Kind of narrows it down a little bit. I would say, like, maybe not a whole lot of people named Bill. Who it could be.
It's like, why are you redacting the guy's name that you're talking about planning for a pandemic, like what to do in response to a pandemic? Well, why is his name retracted?
So
or redacted, rather.
When are they supposed to testify? When are the Clintons supposed to testify? Would you say they're gonna 2 weeks?
I hope we can watch the Clinton testimony, by the way. I don't think we can, because I think it's a federal case, so they're not going to televise it. But I would pay good money to watch the Clintons testify.
Do you say the aliens are coming in the next 2 weeks?
I think
they're going to land?
I think that's
something's going to happen
just before that testifying.
Yeah, it'll be we bomb Iran, aliens show up, maybe at the same time. Yeah. Fuck, man.
Outside of this, because this, I mean, obviously this conspiracy, it's not a theory anymore, right? Because they're connecting the networks, they're like exposing a lot of this. Like, when you look at your total conspiracy catalog of things that you like to dive into, outside of aliens, because everybody knows that, what are your other ones that you like?
Well, aliens is the most fun one.
Yeah.
This is the one that I hate the most.
Yeah.
Because this one scares the shit out of me.
By the way, if you still care about aliens in 2026, please don't talk to me. There is nothing that gets under my skin more than people talking about aliens when we're in a world with demons. I don't really care about aliens. I'm at the point where an alien could walk up to me and I wouldn't even react anymore. I mean, dude, like, people are behind on bills. People are never going to be able to buy a house. Until I can buy a house, I don't give a fuck about an alien. If an alien is going to help me finance a home, and have some sense of security in the near future, I might care about aliens. I don't give a fuck if aliens are real. What the fuck is an alien gonna do for me? Is an alien gonna get me out of apartment living? Fuck the aliens.
Because the fear of, we talked about this yesterday with Roger Avery, the fear of these like literally demonic human beings that are running the world and don't give a fuck about human lives and enjoy watching people being tortured, enjoy watching people killed, participating in ritual sacrifice of people, and they do it in order to show that you're a part of a team and we know that has always historically been a real thing, and it's been something that you look at in history and you go, God, it's so sick, it's so twisted, it's so disgusting, and everybody wants to thank God that's not happening now. But then when you realize like that might have been happening now, for lack of better words, let's call it a service where you allow rich people from foreign governments or whatever, you set it up. I can give you whatever you want.
Right.
Like what I want to do is I want to kill a hooker. Like I want to kill her, I want to torture her, and I want to get rid of the body. Like I want to do that. Like, can you do that? There was one where this one guy is saying to him, "Thank you for the torture video." It's literally a part of an email. The actual quote, "Thank you for the torture," like enjoyed the torture video.
This is how you know those guys in the files felt like they were above the law, by the way, because they explicitly discuss all of these things in emails. And not only that, there's always a camera going. We hear about the blackmail happening and the secret hidden videos. I'm sure there's plenty of those, and there's plenty of those videos that are going to come out at some point coming up soon. But think about all the cool-looking, candid photos of Jeffrey Epstein. He's always sitting there in a dope jacket. And again, I'm not glorifying Jeffrey Epstein. I'm not going to jump on that train, which a lot of streamers are starting to do now for clout. What I'm saying is like he always has these candid, off-guard shots of like him wearing something fresh. These dudes were not worried in the slightest bit about being caught by anybody because, let's be honest, it didn't really matter how much evidence there was. Nothing was going to happen to them. That, to me, is the biggest tell. These guys literally send messages describing their crimes. They're photographing and videotaping all of their crimes. Zero concern about anybody seeing it because the people who could have held them accountable are already allowing it. That, to me, is the biggest tell.
It's so gross.
And they think they've identified that guy. And what do they think? He's a sultan? If you were a person who's a wealthy person that your desire was to go gun people down, like there are people that will provide you with that service. Like there was a thing with the Soviets, or not the Soviets, with the Russians, where they're allowing people to kill pirates.
Yeah.
I'm seeing in the chat, they will all get away with it. You know what, man? I got to be honest. I was starting to feel like they might be holding people accountable in America. But at this point, guys, it's been how long now? It's been a couple of months. I kind of tend to agree with that. I don't think anybody's going to be held accountable in America. And I see another comment here. None of them are paying for their crimes in America, at least. Yeah, I don't think they will. Because at the end of the day, here's what we need to consider as well. Morally, is it correct to hold these people accountable? Well, yes, 100% yes, it's not even a question. But will it collapse the system if these people are held accountable? Well, the answer to that is also yes. If we were to actually go through with moral justice, if we were to actually do it right, and go and investigate this properly and lock up everybody that needs to be locked up, the system in the United States politically and financially would completely dissolve and collapse. There would be no system. The system as we know it, the way everything is put together and put in place, would completely dissolve. And it would basically be the Wild West again. Now, I'm not saying this as if it's necessarily a bad thing. In fact, I actually think this may be one of the most needed things in the United States of all. I mean, I think if any country needs to dissolve their systems and start anew, it's the United States. The only thing is, that's never going to happen. it's a nice thought. It's a nice thought to think that, you know what? Maybe they're all just going to wake up with morals. Maybe they're going to, look in the mirror and say, guys, what are we doing? We can't go through with this. We got to do what's right. It's a nice thought to have. It's a comforting thought. It's like a warm hug in today's world to have that thought. But it's not an accurate or realistic thought because that's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. We're never going to see all these people be held accountable. I don't know what here's the thing. If with the evidence now they're not being held accountable, I don't see a scenario in which they are. If this is not enough, everything we know now, if this is not enough, what's enough? What would actually put these people behind bars? I have no clue. Let's see what else we have here. Let me see. So USA is a corporation then, you think, is what you just said? It's not what I think, it's just a fact. I mean, the United States is absolutely a corporation. That's why a businessman was able to jump into the presidential seat with no experience and actually do quite well. That's the number one thing that people said about Trump when he was running for president the first time. When people said Trump wasn't qualified, the main reason they said he wasn't qualified was because he was a businessman and not a politician. And he's going to run the country like a business, and you can't run the country like a business. The only sense in which America is a country is that it's a physical country. It's physically a landmass with borders. That's the only sense in which it's a country. The way that the United States operates, however, on a government level, it is a business, and that's all it is. Because the only thing that's prioritized is the bottom line of the owners. Last time I checked, that's what a business is. If you're not concerned about the people and your only worry is your bottom line, that is a business. So I don't understand the argument that the United States is not a business. It's the definition of a business. Doesn't necessarily make it bad. I mean, it makes sense. A capitalist country set up in the way that it is, it's probably wiser to run it like a business, but I just wish the people didn't get fucked. Run it like a business, but like give a good raise to people and like give bonuses and give stuff like that. Then you got me on board with running it like a business. You're right, it just doesn't sit right in my soul. Melissa, it doesn't sit right with mine either. It doesn't sit right with mine either. But at the end of the day, I mean, we got to be realistic about the situation. Only in the UK. Let me see. Yeah, the UK is doing good. Do I mean USA or all the other countries in America? I mean, I'm specifically talking about America. I would say that Canada is the same. I mean, if you were to ask me about countries being run like businesses, I would say Canada is the same. It's just a poorly run business. It's run a lot worse. Yeah, so I wanted to look up one more thing. There was some new stuff that came out about the Epstein files. This has been so interesting to talk about. So we can look at some more stuff about Epstein. We can look at, there's this new Candace Owens stuff, which has been crazy. I don't know if you guys saw the new Candace Owens series with Charlie Kirk. Let's try to find this clip. There's this one clip that I had queued up, but now I can't find it. Let's look at this one. The worst scandals in the Epstein files. So now, I don't know if you guys have seen some of the new stuff that's been coming out. Apparently he had poisonous plants. He had dead bodies. He had all types of crazy stuff happening on the island. So let's take a look.
The Zorro Ranch, or around the Zorro Ranch. Got to talk about that. So I want to start with the plants, okay? So there are a series of communications about this. The first that I want to bring up is from Jeffrey Epstein. It's an email from Jeffrey Epstein to an Ann Rodriguez, okay? It's dated March 3rd, 2014. And he asks, ask Chris about my trumpet plants at nursery? And the response later on is will do. So one way to look at this is, was he referring to Angel's trumpet plants? I looked into it. So these are ornamental plants in the nightshade family. You see them in warmer climates, but you can grow them in greenhouses. And they're usually safe, but if you eat them, they could be toxic. One of the compounds in that plant, the reason we're talking about it, is something called scopolamine, okay? This can have a serious effect on the nervous system and can even cause hallucinations. You know, according to TMZ, scopolamine can cause memory loss. It can interfere with someone's free will. And there's something else about this. Scopolamine reportedly doesn't show up on toxicology reports either.
Bro, this dude was like the modern day Walter White. You guys remember that scene with Walter White with the where he poisoned the kid? This is insane. Like, this is levels of evil that we've never seen.
Be a little bit more exact. Our understanding is it doesn't show up on standard tests, maybe can be detected in targeted tests, but obviously you can see why this is a concern. And with that in mind, I got to turn to another email. It's dated January 27th, 2015, and this person is forwarding Jeffrey Epstein a Daily Mail article about scopolamine. In fact, it says forward, scopolamine, powerful drug growing in the forests of Colombia that eliminates free will.
Oh, I've heard of this drug. So this is the drug that they actually blow in your face if you go to Colombia. So to all the passport bros out there who want to go to South America, you got to watch this. So basically what they'll do is it's like a fine powder. It's like a dust. So they'll put it in their hand in like a bag and they'll blow it in your face. And when you inhale this, you literally, like, basically, I have done research about this because I was going to go to South America and I was worried about getting drugged with this exact substance. So basically, if they give you this substance, it can be administered by blowing it in your face and you inhale the particles. It can also be administered by just touching a person. So people and it's not just South America, but I mean, it happens a lot there. They'll give you like a pack of rolling papers. Hey man, you want to hold these papers? And when you grab the papers, they'll have put scopolamine on the pack, and when you touch it and it absorbs into your bloodstream, the effect is the same. So they can rub it on you, you can touch it, you can inhale it, and this drug basically makes you incapacitated while awake. So what they'll do when they give you this drug, and just to like illustrate how incapacitated a person can actually be from it, they'll administer this drug in Colombia and then just take you around to ATMs and just have you take money out of the ATM and give it to them. But the only thing is, they don't really need to do it by force when you're on this drug. You just do it. So imagine me going up to a guy and being like, hey man, let's go to the ATM and you give me all your money. And he just says, okay, and he does it with not putting up a fight. That's the level of dangerous drug that Jeffrey Epstein was dealing with here, just to give some context. Super, super scary. It's like one of the scariest drugs in the world.
In the forests of Colombia that eliminates free will. In the article, I'm going to quote it directly. It says, so again, why was this forwarded to Jeffrey Epstein? Why was this highlighted? The most dangerous drug in the world, devil's breath, chemical from Colombia.
Devil's breath. That's what it is. The devil's breath. Yeah. Somebody in the chat said what? My Ecuadorian friends or my Ecuadorian father-in-law almost got robbed with that stuff. He was poisoned by a hitchhiker and barely made it back to his home. Yeah, it's no joke, dude. This type of stuff is insane. Y'all are way behind on this. I'm not behind on it. I've seen this a long time ago. I've been talking about this since 4chan.
Will wipe memory and even kill. Scopolamine often blown into faces of victims or added to drinks. Within minutes, victims are like zombies, coherent but with no free will. Some victims report emptying bank accounts to robbers or helping them pillage own house.
See, I want to go to Colombia to party and go to Brazil, but I don't want to die. Like, just genuinely, without mincing words, just speaking completely from the heart, and I talked about this the other night, but I travel full time, but so many of the places I want to travel are so damn dangerous that I don't want to go. I mean, especially when it comes to dating and stuff, because women will put this shit in your drink so fast. And they're working with dudes, they're working with cartels, they're working with people in the favelas. I've always had this dream of going to Brazil and going to Colombia. That was my first travel dream. I'm currently in Asia now, and I don't regret it. I mean, I love Asia. It's an incredible, vibrant, place. It's safe. The food's good. But my OG travel dream was to travel to Brazil and travel to Colombia. But as a solo dude, I don't want to be a statistic. And even when you look, I saw this new thing today, Mexico City missing wall. Take a look at this. So this is this has been going viral. In Mexico City, there's basically a street that you drive down, and it's just all people who are missing. Oh, fuck off. Doesn't want to show me the clip. This one right here. This doesn't really illustrate it, though. I want to show you guys a better clip. This should be, Look at this. So this is all missing people, guys. All missing people in Mexico City. Like, there's no way. There's no way. You think I'm going to travel and end up on a poster like that? That's my worst fear.
Drug is made from
I don't claim any negative energy. I don't even claim that.
Taro tree, which is common in Colombia. And I want to call out this section, too, from the article. It says, Dementia Black, a drug dealer in the capital of Bogota, said the drug is frightening for the simplicity in which it can be administered. He told Vice that scopolamine can be blown in the face of a passerby on the street, and within minutes, that person is under the drug's effect. Scopolamine is odorless and tasteless. Quote, you can guide them wherever you want. It's like they're a child. So this arguably shows that Epstein was aware of and maybe even was interested in the effects of this plant. And that brings me to another document that I got to call out, because it's one thing for Epstein to be interested in, maybe wanting to grow it, but what about using it and potentially using it for nefarious purposes?
Do people use it themselves, or do they use it just on other people? Like, I don't know if anybody in the chat would know, but is there like recreational scopolamine use where people drug themselves with it? I've never heard of people actually taking it themselves.
And remember, there have been allegations against Epstein that were very similar to what I'm talking about right now. You know, there was a FBI crisis intake memo that was in the files, and it was dated October 8th, 2019, and it says that at 8:40 p.m., Redacted called the FBI National Threat Operations Center to report being an Epstein victim. Redacted provided the following information. Redacted was raped by Epstein in 1984 when she was 14 years of age. Redacted stated Epstein drugged her at Redacted in Redacted. Prior to being raped, Redacted came in and out of consciousness. And
Bro, this is such a farce to release the files like this, by the way. Like, look at all these redactions. Look at all the black squares on this page. See, this could have been such useful information. But these idiots are redacting it. It's such a distraction. Like, it almost feels to me like these files are mostly performative because they're not really giving us much info in them. They're like, all right, we'll give you the files, but we're not going to tell you who's in them, where anything happened, or when anything happened, but you can have the files. It's not good enough.
Stated Epstein's face was painted like a clown. All right, before we jump into everything, look, it's February.
What did it say? His face was painted like a clown. That's terrifying. She came in and out of consciousness and stated that Epstein's face was painted like a clown. Dude. That's terrifying.
8:40 p.m., Redacted called the FBI National Threat Operations Center to report being an Epstein victim. Redacted provided the following information. Redacted was raped by Epstein in 1984 when she was 14 years of age. Redacted stated Epstein drugged her at Redacted in Redacted. Prior to being raped, Redacted came in and out of consciousness and stated Epstein's face was painted like a clown.
That is so vile.
All right, before
That's
we
so
jump into
evil.
everything, look, it's February. This is the time we're all...
Damn. It gets worse from here.
Use scopolamine to drug women or girls in any fashion and then sexually assault them. There's nothing blatant that I've seen to suggest that. However, I have to call this out because what we found here is very weird. It brings me to this document, February 2022. It is described as a victim impact statement that was sent to the United States Attorney in South Florida, Tony Gonzalez. And it's apparently from a Joseph Manzaro discussing an incident in December 2014 where he was drugged. Now, if anybody's been following us here on Sidebar for a while now, as I was listening to this and I was reading, I was like, why does that name sound so familiar? And I realized we covered this guy. Joseph Manzaro, we don't know exactly who he is, but he is somebody we've talked about before. This person, apparently out of Florida, Joseph Manzaro, filed a lawsuit in Florida federal court. He claimed that he was a victim of sex trafficking and sexual exploitation at the hands of Sean Diddy Combs.
No way. Can you guys imagine if they ended up working together? If Epstein and Diddy were connected? That would be the final straw, man. I don't even know what I would do with that information.
And others. We talked about him. We covered this, his lawsuit, where through a victim impact statement, it's very similar to what I'm about to go through. It says that it was about 5:30 p.m. on December 26, 2014, when I arrived home. I unlocked my door, and when I turned the handle on my door, I got something all over my hand that resembled Vaseline. I said to myself, ew, that's disgusting. I rubbed my fingers together in my hands as I went in to wash my hands to see what the heck this stuff was. The next thing I remember was waking up in the back seat of a car and being driven somewhere. It was Eric Mejias driving and Bonnie Rivera in the passenger seat. I said, hey guys, what's going on? Where are we going? What am I doing here? Why are we driving anywhere? I'm supposed to be at home right now. Then I said, oh wow, I'm really sleepy. I need to just put my head back a bit. The next thing I remember was...
Somebody said they can't put every name in the files because there's laws to protect minors. Dude, they're redacting the names of people who were adults. They're redacting the names of people who are supposed to be perpetrators, not just victims. So you can try to spin it like they're protecting victims because that's exactly what they're doing. The FBI, the CIA, they're trying to twist it like they're protecting victims. They're not protecting victims. They're protecting perpetrators. That's a lot of the names that were redacted were perpetrators or people who were involved. Also locations. There's no case that you can give me where I will agree with redacting that information. You say if it was my sister, would I want her name released? Absolutely, sure. Why not? Let's get the word. I mean, the longer this stays a secret, the longer it's going to happen.
So this is very confusing because there's no direct mention in this to Jeffrey Epstein. I'm not sure why it's in the files, but how could I not mention it when it's another direct reference to scopolamine? Again, seeming right there. So as much as we talk about Epstein and all that, sometimes we don't talk enough about what these accusers, what these alleged victims went through. So let me read you from these, again, what appear to be diary entries. Close your eyes, close your eyes, close your eyes.
What does it say? Crazy. What if it was me? It wouldn't be me. That's the first thing. It would never be me. Yeah, I could never be lured into anything. Honestly, if you were to lure me to an island, I would just never go anywhere. It would never be me. So that's just a nonsensical hypothetical question. It doesn't really make much sense. So yeah, guys, a whole bunch of new stuff coming out about Bill Gates. I think the Bill Gates story is quite shocking. Again, I don't know what the influence is for Bill Gates to be out here actually admitting this. I don't know what is influencing him to speak on this situation at this time. I think we have some audio.
Bill Gates reportedly said in a...
Oh, I don't think it's audio of Bill. Hang on a second.
town hall to the Gates Foundation. He called his association with Jeffrey Epstein, which has become much clearer over the last month, a quote, huge mistake.
Okay, yeah, we already read the quotes. But yeah, I don't know, again, like whenever I see these guys starting to do interviews in the midst of this, I feel like it's kind of theatrical, because if you were really involved in a legal case like this, or what could potentially become a massive legal case, I would imagine you wouldn't really want to be talking about it. That being said, I'm seeing in the chat, he knows he's untouchable. So yeah, I could see some of that as well. Ultimately, we're going to stay on this story. We're going to keep tracking all the information about Gates, all the new stuff coming out about Epstein. But my closing thoughts are, this is just the tip of the iceberg. I would imagine that, and again, I kind of have mentioned this before, but this is going to be my consistent sentiment on this. I feel like a lot of the information that we're getting now, if we're getting this information, I can't imagine what they're releasing this to try to cover up for. Like, if we know this much, imagine the stuff that we don't know that they're still trying to protect. So I would imagine that they're going to give us a lot. They're going to give us what feels like a lot. But still, my gut is telling me that what they're giving us is not a lot. It's actually the tip of the iceberg, because we have to remember, this stuff has been going on for a very long time. There was a lot of people involved. There's a lot of countries involved. So to me, I mean, again, it feels like we got a lot of files. It feels like we got a lot of information. But guys, 3 million files out of 250 million? Like, how many files are there? Okay, they gave us 3 million. I don't think that's anything. How many years was this going on? How many videotapes are there still of all these people? All these blackmail videos, all this stuff? We haven't seen any of this stuff. So my hypothesis is that they're going to keep putting things out, exactly, Lois, as a smokescreen, like you're saying in the chat. They're going to keep us distracted. They're going to keep us busy to try to mitigate the real effects of what could happen. Because if we keep going down this road, and if we keep discovering more things about these guys, the backlash is going to be too big to contain. The backlash is going to be too strong to contain, and it's going to become an unmanageable situation. The only way to quiet the crowd right now is to give the illusion of accountability, the illusion that legal proceedings are coming, probably drag a couple people into court for theatrical reasons, and then just say there's aliens and start a war, and then we all forget about it. But just keep your head on about it, guys. Let's not cut them any slack yet. I have a strong feeling that there's a lot of stuff that could come out. There's a lot of stuff that's still behind the scenes. And anytime we feel like they're being forthcoming, just remember they're not. They're not. They're not being forthcoming. It's unbelievable. They'll be protected, absolutely. All of a sudden, aliens are coming and the cure for cancer has been released. Exactly. This is what I'm saying, man. It's so convenient. Every time it has to be aliens. Every time, guys. So yeah, I don't know if there's any more stuff to cover for tonight. I can't go super late here. And again, that's why I have like a hushed voice. I'm in the pod hostels, so there's like somebody here, somebody here. It's like we're in a college dorm, and it's like 11 at night. So my apologies for the hushed voice. This isn't my typical demeanor on the air. Tomorrow we're going to hop on and talk about some more Epstein stuff, and I think I want to do a stream talking about this Candace Owens docuseries. I don't know if you guys saw the Candace docuseries. Let's watch the trailer. Let's just watch the trailer real quick, and we'll prepare for tomorrow. I'm going to try to bite my tongue and save my thoughts for tomorrow, but I have a lot of thoughts on Candace and what she's doing. So this is the documentary for Candace's Erica Kirk series, which is starting today. and the first episode just came out today. Let me know what you guys think of this, and have you watched the series from Candace at all?
President Trump says that Kirk has died after he was shot from a nearby building.
After being shot at Utah Valley University.
The great and even legendary Charlie Kirk is dead.
Thank you, AB. Thank you guys all for being here. I appreciate it.
Echo around the world like a battle cry.
I didn't even get to give him a kiss goodbye.
That young man, I forgive him.
Take your time.
Erica Kirk has been named the new CEO of Turning Point USA.
My husband's dead. Like, I'm not trying to be morbid, but he's dead.
It's weird to say excited.
Describes her husband's funeral as the event of the century. Merch, hats.
We have 50,000 plus hat orders.
Nobody knows why she's out there in a glittering pantsuit in a recreated tent that her husband tragically was murdered in, throwing merch out.
Everyone grieves differently, so if someone's acting weird, don't read into that.
Zionists, the Prime Minister of Israel, all lied through their teeth about Charlie Kirk.
Her operation was in Constanta, the epicenter of Romania's trafficking scandal.
Weird conversations to have with a 15-year-old. I'm gonna touch your butt.
$8.6 million to their own shell company.
What is going on?
We have nothing to hide. My aunt used to tell me, never do something that you don't want on the front page of a newspaper.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Candace Owens, new documentary series, The Bride of Charlie. We're going to save that for tomorrow. We're going to jump on with a reaction to this. If you guys do want to see some of my reaction to Erica Kirk and some of the stuff that she's pulled since Charlie's death, there are past streams where I've talked about it. I did a whole stream a couple weeks ago about Erica Kirk and Candace and Charlie. If you guys want to watch that in the meantime, make sure to go and take a look at my past streams. And by the way, hit that subscribe to access the whole archive of past streams. I have tons and tons of different shows talking about all these different topics, from music to entertainment to world events to all these different things. And if you guys have been liking the streams, make sure to show some love on the super chats, the donations as well. I appreciate you guys. You know, we had to go ahead and buy the router. We had to buy our own Wi-Fi to stream tonight. We're pouring money into these streams, trying to make it look and sound better every single time. So we appreciate you guys showing love. Worldwide press tour is an interesting way to grieve. I would completely agree with that, sir, in the chat. And we will we'll hop back on and talk about this tomorrow. Have a great evening, my friends. I guess it's daytime in America. Have a great day, my friends. We'll catch you tomorrow morning. Stay safe. Hug your families. Peace.